so it's all about January 3rd. Is there anyone born today? Good.
I think I heard something there, right? Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Now, this show is going to take the day that the show is on, and we're going to explore everything that happened of note. So births, deaths, political events, historical events.
And also personal events.
And that's
like
what, yeah.
our little Facebook memories and time hop memories. So when I was little, one of the questions like in school was like, what makes you cry? And I remember answering that with memories. And I was like 5, I was like, memories make me cry. Because I'm such like a nostalgic fan, you know, like I love like watching commercials from the 90s and like looking at my emails from 2 years ago, you know, all that stuff. I love that.
Me too. And I've always saved like videos and photographs and everything growing up, so I think that's where Angel and I came together for the show, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to connect historical events with our personal anecdotes.
Yeah.
And today obviously is the 3rd of January. And we're going to be exploring that, and it's crazy that today we've made some history, right? Three pretty big events have happened. Democracy seems to be coming back a little bit with the House. Give it up for that. There are 24 people of color coming in. There's 2 Native Americans, 1 Palestinian American. There's change coming, and it's going to be really good. So I'd say January 3rd is starting really good. China landed a rover on the dark side of the moon. Let's give it up for that. Yeah, it's huge. And I think most importantly, did everybody hear the L train is not shutting down? So we'll give it up for that. It's very exciting. I was excited about it because I don't like to leave the house, so I was like, "Oh, cool! This is really good for me." But now, I guess I'll have to start leaving the house again. It's not shutting down. But yeah, January 3rd shaping up to be good, and I think we're gonna tell you a little more about it.
Yeah, we're gonna like do a speed because a lot of things happen from today until like the past. So we're gonna do like a speed run of like really quick highlights of all the historical events that happened on January 3rd, this date. And are you ready? Are you guys ready?
Right.
All right, here we go.
Let's get ready to learn. This first one, 236. The Catholic Pope ends his reign by dying, we found out later. So he died, and that's how his reign ended. This is the first big event of recorded history we found out on January 3rd.
All right, next. Leo da Vinci, a flying machine failed. Look how sad he is. So sad.
In 1777, this is a big one. George Washington defeats the British forces.
Woo!
Yeah, that was a big one.
Another big one, 1870, Brooklyn Bridge started building.
Yep, the Benz. I think the first day the guy died of the Benz immediately. And this drinking straw patented, and now we don't like him anymore.
Yeah, straws.
Yeah, fuck straws.
Another patent, Tesla, he patented something called the helicopter plane.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Big one.
Yeah.
Da Vinci, same day, flying machines. Oh, also a big one. Minnie Craig becomes the first woman elected as Speaker of North Dakota House of Representatives. The first woman.
Yeah.
So
All
continue on
those,
that trend.
before it was like men, and now finally a woman.
Yeah.
This is interesting. The first televised session of Congress, 1947, was with President Truman,
Huge.
And it was like, that wasn't really known, but yeah, it was with President Truman.
Yeah,
Don't
huge.
let anyone tell you otherwise.
Huge. So this is big. William Dawson is the first African American to head the Congressional Committee. He also died on January 3rd. Yeah, pretty big.
Whoa.
Pretty scary.
That's
QAnon.
kind of crazy. 1953. Mother and son, first time ever, maybe only time ever.
Only time serving together in
yeah,
Congress.
US Congress.
They get elected. This is the day they got in. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, very
That's an
aw.
awe. Yeah.
Oh, this is big. Beatles record their last song, "I Me Mine." Big Beatles day here.
Apple was incorporated.
Shout out.
Today.
Yep.
In 1977.
Big
Look at
day.
their logo. Look at this was their original logo. Crazy, right?
It's super cute. Oh, Aretha Franklin is the first female inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. More women getting notes. January 3rd.
Another woman, longest serving prime minister for British, 1988.
That was big.
Margaret Thatcher.
Yep. Oh, my God. This is my favorite. Closed captioning. premieres on TV. Huge. I don't have to say anything else.
All right, this one is my favorite.
All right, I'll take a break.
So, in 1994, do you guys know Amy Fisher, the story? Yeah? All right. Well, crazy, ABC and CBS both aired like a movie at the same time. One starring Drew Barrymore, one starring Alyssa Milano. Same time. I think people are saying that the Drew Barrymore was sexier, but guess what? All the ratings were the same because everyone loved that story. But also, guess what? NBC also aired another Amy Fisher story a few days before that because everyone loved Amy Fisher.
There were 3 in like a span of a week. Casualties of Love is actually very good. I recommend that one.
Yeah, it's actually on YouTube. If you
can check it out.
You can watch it for free.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, 2004, huge. Also,
Recent.
Casey Kasem gives the duties over to Ryan Seacrest for the top 40.
This one's huge. 2012, I received an iPod Touch. And this was the first picture I took with my iPod Touch because I didn't have a smartphone, and iPod Touch was kind of like a smartphone. Okay.
The first bionic hand this woman gets last year that she can sense touch with it. It's pretty wild in Rome. Yeah.
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 Look at, she's so happy.
Just last year.
Yeah. So those are the highlight. There
we're
was
caught
much
up.
more.
Yeah.
We had to select our favorites, and those are it. So now we're gonna have our first presenter. So all our presenters have something either personal or historical that they want to tell more about, that they're passionate about, that happened on January 3rd, which is why this date is special to them. So our first presenter is Tallie Medel. She's so funny. She has a great story. I can't wait for you guys to listen to her.
Give
So
it for Tallie,
give it for Tallie.
It's true. I'm from southern Southeast Alaska. I'm from Ketchikan, Alaska. It's on an island called Urabiagegelo. I have to go so fast because I have too many facts. Here we go. So Alaska is so big, you have to be really careful thinking about it because it's actually so big you could pass away. So look, that's what I'm talking about. You please be so careful. Please. City that is a fraction of the size of the island. Also, careful. And then, look, the island is a fraction of the state. We're over there. I'm taking too long. No way. FAQs. This is what comes up a lot with my drivers and taxis. It's not that cold. Tongass National Rainforest encompasses Rebiagegelo Island, which Ketchikan is on. So it's a temperate rainforest. Winter's not so snowy, mostly wet and cold and dark. Summertime's balmy, nice. Too hot also now. It's, again, so much rain. You can't believe it. Helly Hansen, we love. Bears, I see them. They can swim. Once there were too many, and they shipped a bunch over to Gravina Island, or as we call it, the mainland, and they all swam back. They love the dump. Whales, we have them. Once, there was a kid on the beach by my house, and an orca fucking pushed the kid up onto the shore because it was trying to eat him. That's what happens with climate change. The killer whale didn't have enough to eat, so it tried to eat a child. Eagles are scavengers. They're covered in fish guts. Don't worship. Sometimes there have been wolves. I've never seen one, though. I hope I never see one. Think about it. Terrible. That's my dad. Economy was timber and marine. Fisheries. Guys, the salmon, they're dying. Don't bank on your kids knowing about salmon in the future. I'm telling you. The fishing industry is in serious decline. Sorry. So now, Southeast, tourisme. Ketchikan was really stupid about it. Other cities, Juneau, were smart about it. They put a cap on, for instance, their jewelry stores. Ketchikan was like, bring them in. There's no local economy anymore. The cruise ship industry boards up the windows in the wintertime. Thanks, guys. They bought up all the local real estate and then they shut it down. We have a really amazing Native Alaskan cultural heritage in Southeast Alaska. That's Nathan Jackson. I know him. He's a national living treasure. That's his carving house in Saxman Native Village. It smells so good. And he's fuck you. He's in the Smithsonian. Get over it. I grew up in Alaska because my dad worked for the Forest Service. He was the fisheries manager for the Tongass National Rainforest. He's Mexican. Look at him. That's my mom. Women also have jobs. She was a public health nurse. Gonna hear it for the nurses. And she was an itinerant public health nurse, so she would go out to all the little teeny tiny communities that had like 17 people living in them, like Kaufman Cove. She would administer flu shots, get your vaccine. She would vaccinate the children. She would give the old people what they needed. She would take boats and planes to get there. I think this is one of the kids that she gave flu shots to. I don't know. I found this in my pictures. I think she told me that was true. Don't remember. I didn't ever feel like a real Alaskan because my parents are from Carpinteria, California and Hermosa Beach, California. That's them and all their friends. But then my dad got a boat and then he was a real Alaskan. Ketchikan, again, an island. People need boats. There was a beach by my house. The wall, it's like over here. It was a little dam because this is like a little swimming pool for people who want to go to the beach. That little forest is my favorite place in the world. It's so beautiful, definitely also very dangerous for children. This is like pee-pee crab water. There was like, everybody peed in it, and then there was like, I think there were crabs over by the, who cares? But there was beautiful water like over there. And then once I saw a blue heron when I was waiting for the bus, because the bus stop was like there. Oh, also, sorry, my nephew, I'm so sorry. He's the cutest. I'm so sorry to have to tell you that he's the cutest, besides his little sister Lyra. You wonder what the kids look like? Okay, schools, normal suburban schools, except that they send the children into the woods in 8th grade and do things like, for instance, what I highlighted. You eat the sea cucumbers for 3 days on the beaches in the wild, and you try not to get giardia. I got giardia in New York City from a burrito. You can't play sports with other high schools on the island. There's no other schools on the island. You have to go to other cities. So for instance, you want to go to Juneau, you have to go 200 miles north on a plane or a boat. That's how you play intramural sports. You got all these high schoolers on ferries and they're like, oh, I'm so horny. Also, no football because there's no grass. So get over it. You have to play basketball, which is like so much cooler anyway. And that was our homecoming dance. So it was like all these high schoolers at the homecoming dance, which is like so much fun. Basketball players. Did I say high schoolers? The basketball players at the homecoming dance were like so much. It was fun. I had a beautiful high school. I didn't know until I left Ketchikan that this was not normal. Again, 2 pools, 2 different band rooms, and a choir room, and we had the gyms, and we had an auditorium. So thanks, school board. And for like 500, don't think that like I only went to school with 10 people. That's so rude. There were 500 people, except for when the architecture firm like fucking, they blew it. Oh my God, I have to start the video. They sent us all these 8th graders. You can't, that's like irresponsible. Ketchikan, dark and evil. That's fish blood. The fish, they die when they're still alive. They spawn and then they die, and then it just smells so bad. Darkness. You will get depressed. Suicide. Popular. Oxy. The kids love it. But I was fine. Thanks for clapping. Ketchikan Theater Ballet, KRBD. That's the how they used to organize the records back in the day when I was DJing. Revenge of the Radio, 9 to 11 p.m. Thursday nights. KRBD Ketchikan. So I existed in the arts, and I just sort of scooted my way out of drugs. I went to college. I was in the paper for being in Boston. This is just a story on a couple people in Alaska. Being in Boston. Ketchikan folks in Boston's Harvard Square. That's how you get into Ketchikan Daily News. So easy. Okay, so here we go. So I'm just going to talk over this. My parents sold our house. I love the volume. Oh my God. Okay. I grew up on 49 Double Eagle Lane. Eagle Nest is over there. There's a gravel. Everybody needs gravel because everybody loves gravel. So those are my crunching footsteps. That's where my dad was with the skiff. He'd already sold it at this point. This is 2016. I was 21 years old. My mom loves rocks. So Ketchikan, the reason that this city population is so small partly is because you have to build only on the coastline, otherwise you have to blast dynamite out of rock. That's storage. You have to keep a lot of stuff locked up because bears. Once a bear was all around down here eating shrimp tails because my dad didn't get rid of the shrimp tails, and it was such a big bear. I still think about how big it was. It was shocking. We used to have a hammock over there. It's gone. So this is the morning that I was leaving the house. So that's why I'm walking around, and I'm so sorry if this makes you sick to your stomach. I understand, but I had to show it because I feel like it's just the fastest way to show you what it was like growing up in Ketchikan. You'll see it at the end, but we had this crazy view of all the water, and nothing compares to it still. I was often paralyzed with how beautiful Alaska was, but didn't know what to do with it because I was like, I'm never gonna live here. But it's so pretty. It's a ladder. And then these are lingonberries. We also had wild huckleberries, which look like blueberries, and salmonberries, which look like big blackberries, but salmon eggs, and they taste like citrus, and they're so good. But this was in August, and salmonberry season is July? Thanks. I've got some Alaskans here. They're helping me out. I don't know what I was doing there. I'm pretty sure I was probably crying. Once my brother and I got in a fight, and he hid under here, and I didn't know where he was. Maybe I hid. You know when you have a sibling and your connection is so phenomenal, you don't know whose memories are whose? This is where the bear came up one time. Neighbors. That's a deck. You have to paint the house once a year or it all falls apart because you live in a rainforest and it looks like shit. This is the view I fucking grew up with. Are you kidding me? I had nightmares about Godzilla all the time. I had nightmares about Godzilla coming out of the water. There's a short section of our deck table and the moss. I love moss. Lichen. I love that. Oh my God, look at that. Float plane. And then here we are. And there's the couch. Thank you so much. That's what it was like to grow up in Alaska.
Maybe we should sing happy birthday.
Sure. Here we go.
All right, ready, guys? Let's all sing happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear people. Happy birthday to you.
There's a couple more.
Well, we could have sang slower.
So there's some actually pretty great people on that list. The last one notable was Alex Linz in 1989, who played the young boy in Home Alone 3. So really notable.
Who was your favorite person who was born?
I think it was in '62. Darren Dalton, who was a Philadelphia Phillies player. Yeah, he went to the '93 World Series. They lost. I remember a great moment when I was spitting on my friend's TV because they lost, and then crying under the table because they didn't have his signed baseball on QVC. And so my sister got her favorite Phillies player, but his was sold out. And so I cried for a few hours under the table.
Sorry.
But happy birthday, Darren. I think he's a Republican, though, so fuck it.
But great memory.
Yeah, right. Great memories as a player. Do you have somebody?
Yes, mine is Anna Faye Wong.
Oh, yeah.
Do you guys? You shouldn't. She was the first Hong Kong actress to be kind of in America, but the downer is she was up to play in a movie called The Great Earth, based on the book by Pearl S. Buck.
Yeah.
And guess what? They gave it to a white actress. So she was the first
German
whitewashed victim.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's sad. I'm sorry I ended on a sad note.
But happy birthday.
Anyway, but happy birthday. All right.
All right.
So next, those were the births. And now here's everyone who died on January 3rd.
Should we sing happy birthday in reverse?
Yeah, let's do that. Ready, guys?
You too. Birthday happy to you.
You
Too.
birthday happy. You too. I put it down. Opposite. To birthday happy.
Give a shout if you see anybody you know. We actually looked up a video. If you do sing it back, if you sing Happy Birthday in reverse, it sounds like Raise the Dead, Now Raise the Dead, or something like that.
It's
It's really wild.
creepy.
Check it out.
You should
Give it a shot yourself. Up
who
to those
was-
deaths.
Yeah, who was your favorite person who died? Or what was the favorite death?
I think it's Joy Adamson.
Huh?
Yeah, she was my favorite. She wrote a book called Born Free. She spent a lot of time in Kenya and raised a small lion named Elsa. And her body was found on the safari terrain, and they thought it was a lion, but it turns out she was actually murdered by one of her employees, like a kid, like a 16-year-old
lion?
kid. Not a lion. They thought it for a while, yeah. It's pretty wild.
Wait, a 16-year-old?
Yeah, and then he got life in prison, but then couldn't get charged for capital punishment because he was a minor, supposedly. I found out 5 minutes ago. But it seems really... She did a lot of good work, and then also I think her husband was murdered a couple years later, actually. He was saving a tourist who was on a safari. The tourist was getting attacked by poachers, and then he intervened, and then he was murdered by the poachers.
Did the tourist live?
The tourist lived, but her husband died. And it was on January 3rd, too, so it's really wild. Did you have a favorite death? Who's your favorite
Mine
death?
was Philip.
Oh, yeah.
Because he died of dysentery. And I don't know anyone who, we always hear about it, people who died, but he actually died of dysentery.
That's wild.
That's a lot of poop and stuff. But anyway.
That's the births and deaths, everybody. Give it up for everybody that died and been born.
All right.
Is it me?
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm going to go now.
Yes.
Yeah.
The next presenter is Ross Brunetti.
Thanks. All right, so this is Martin Luther. Give it up if you know Martin Luther. Some Catholics, I hear it. So I have a video to share from high school. I was 14, and I used to make videos with my friend Colin. I wasn't in the class, but he was given permission to make films instead of writing essays. So he enlisted me to make these videos for him. And so every time we made a video, we took an advantage to roast everybody in the class, the teachers, and for some reason we got away with it. And in this one I'm going to show, he describes Martin Luther, so I won't go too much into it. The reason I bring it up today is because Martin Luther was excommunicated by the Pope in 1521 for saying fuck the Catholic Church, and they told him to renounce his 95 Thesis, and he wouldn't, and so the Pope excommunicated him on January 3rd. So the video, what we did was the final video, and we focused on all of these historical scandals. And it was a 45-minute video, and we went through every single student in the class and the teacher, and we made them a subject, and my friend Colin played every single character. And so in this one, he plays a kid named Jason Herf, who was a big wrestler. He really liked walking around in a tank top, talking about his muscles. He loved Wu-Tang. I mean, we all did, but we made sure to put in his love of Wu-Tang in this. And so this, and what's really cool is that my friend was a great impressionist. So he's being a bit hyperbolic, but he's really good at impersonating them, and he's also really smart. Like, he just rattled these facts off. And there's one cut that's very clear where he doesn't know what he's talking about. You'll see, and it's the main point of what he's trying to describe, which is what Protestant means, but you'll see. So basically, this is your little history lesson on Martin Luther, as told by my friend Colin, impersonating Jason Herf, the wrestler. Let's see.
What I did was the sale of indulgences and Martin Luther, right? Okay, so let's start back. The Catholic Church was in Reformation, right? And so what they wanted to do was rebuild St. Patrick's Cathedral. And St. Patrick's Cathedral was a huge, big church, It was my muscles of a church. If there was a church that was my muscles, that was it, baby. So in order to rebuild this, they needed the dough, In order to get this dough, they were let's sell some indulgences, right? And indulgences were a pardon from a sin. So if you bought an indulgence, you were pardoned from a sin, right? Anyways, they started selling these indulgences, and Martin Luther was yo, man, selling indulgences is wrong. So he was maybe I should write up 95 theses. So that's what he did. So he wrote 95 theses on why the selling of indulgences was wrong, and he posted them on the Wittenberg Church in Germany. My bad, all these muscles are getting in my throat. The church is yo, remove these theses or be excommunicated. So he's I'm gonna get excommunicated. So he gets excommunicated, right? But a lot of people were believed in him, right? So they followed him. And then eventually he started the Protestant church. And Protestant means protesting. Protestant means to protest, right? And after Protestant, eventually he formed the Lutheran church stuff. So he's a pretty big, important guy. Pretty big guy, kinda like myself, baby? You know that? The Wu-Tang 36 Chambers, dude? Oh, that stuff right there, man. This heat's bomb. I like cream. Cash rules everything around me. Hit the J. $100 bills, y'all.
So now you know about Martin Luther. Let's bring up your next guest here, yeah? Her name is Jacqui Rossi, and she's going to be sharing something very special with you that I think you all know about. Yes, give it up for Jacqui, everybody.
I see. Hello, everybody. Welcome to January 3rd. So, about 36 years ago, on this day, January 3rd, 1983, something really, really amazing happened. And fortunately, it really doesn't get the attention it deserves in the history books. January 3rd, 1983. The game Plinko debuted on the great American classic, The Price is Right. Now, if you take a look at me, you might think that old librarian must have enjoyed 1983. But you'd be incorrect, I wasn't born yet. But I did like The Price is Right. In fact, I liked it very much when I was about 9 years old. And I've already broken everything. Oh, you did it for me, you sweet man. Oh, God bless you, Ross. He knows me so well. I can't, tap that thing? I can't do it. So, when I was 9, I was a rather precocious 9-year-old, and I was different. Oh, yeah, right. As you can see, I was some combination of a bookish Keebler elf and a very old man. I have to say, I always enjoyed a good paradox, the little giants. That's not in this presentation, but if you'd like to talk to me about paradoxes after the show, you know where to find me. Somewhere in the audience. Anywho, so when I was 9, this lady here, I wasn't like the other 9-year-old kids. I grew up in Florida, so I hung out with a lot of
what you might call adults, like old people. They love daytime television, and The Price is Right was one of the few television programs that I could enjoy with my elderly babysitter and with my grandma. And part of the reason I could enjoy it is because I think The Price is Right has this kind of, it's like a great equalizer, because all you have to do well in The Price is Right is shop. And if you're an American citizen, you shop. Anyone can do this. And it's also like the middle class luxuries that, rich people don't need to be on the show. They're not gonna buy a bread maker. They buy bread from a store. It's us, upper middle class folks who are like, wouldn't it be jolly to make bread? And then you see it on the TV and you're like, I know that cost $87. And that's your pride, that's your moment. So, I grew up reading all of the advertisements in the newspaper because I really wanted to get good at this game. I wanted to know how much these things cost. God, dining room sets are expensive, let me tell you. One summer, the summer of 1999, I was 9 years old, and I got really into The Price is Right. I watched it every single day, and I started to get better. As we librarians tend to do. We get better at things we learn. So I was like, I want to be on this show. And my mom had to break it to me that I couldn't be on the show because I wasn't 18. But I wasn't willing to take no for an answer. So this lady right here wrote a letter to Bob Barker. We're going to read it together now. Don't look ahead. Okay, thank you. We'll just go through it once, and then we'll hit the highlights. Dear Bob Barker, you are a nice man. Exclamation point, crossed out, period. We know this show is about enthusiasm, but we don't want to push it all out in the first go. Someday, I wish to be on your show, but I'm only 9. And you will be retired by the time I'm 18. That's 11 years from then. And just so you know, Bob Barker retired in June of 2007. 1 year and 5 days before I turned 18. Obviously, he didn't care about this letter. I dream. Obviously, I missed the of, had it over here. I'm an editor now, just so you know. Once an editor, always an editor. I dream of just seeing you in person! Exclamation point. I admire you! Now, I like that. I just want to say for my 9-year-old self, if this guy doesn't like me, I don't know what else I can do. I said he's a nice man. I admire him. Sure, I've made him come face to face with the mortality of his career, but what else could I do that's worse? Oh yes, every night I pray, God, let Bob Barker live until I turn 30. Well, we've heard some dissing on the Catholic Church. All I know is I'm not 30 and Bob Barker's still breathing, so you tell me who's using the magic here. I was wondering, I think I wrote I was wonder, but let's just see it. I was wonder how you are doing. I'm doing great. So, just so we're clear, I'm not gonna fall. This, just because we're here, I was wondering how you are doing, comma, I doing great. Now, you might think, a comma's place, but since there is no actual verb in the second half of this sentence, not a comma's place. Grammatically correct. Not a good sentence, but grammatically correct. Every day in the summer, I play along. I get better every day. You seem so fair. I actually wrote F-A-R-E, which is a different meaning. But I fair. I also want to point out, look at these A's. Somebody's going through a transition. Am I going to be a regular nerd or a cool lady when I get to middle school? Only, well, let's see what you guys thought. Do you think I made it as a cool lady? I would never write my A's like that. It's incredibly inefficient. You seem so fair. I think that the people, and then it stops. And so this is obviously a draft. To be honest with you, I'm not sure what happened to the actual letter. If I remember correctly, I gave it to my mom, and it got mailed. But when Ross and I were talking about doing this show, he was like, you know, you gotta finish the letter. Like, that's what you have to do. That's how we make peace with this, you know, unfinished business. But as I looked back on the letter, I started to notice something about my 9-year-old self. God, there's my time! Okay. I noticed something, which is, I'm just gonna go back. I'm not gonna use a laser pointer, forget it. You are a nice man. I admire you. You seem so fair. So, something about my 9-year-old self, which, if there's more where this came from, and my 9-year-old self was really obsessed with justice and fairness, and it was something I liked about The Price is Right. As I mentioned, you could be rich, poor, you could be black, white, you could be a kid or an old lady, and you could play this game together. And if you watch the show, like, it makes American consumerism feel amazing. Like, everyone is it's American values in their finest. People know the prices of things, they cheer each other on, and even when somebody loses, Bob Barker would be like, oh, sorry you didn't win, but John, you're getting an RV. It was like you could have sympathy and pride at the same time, which seems like a paradox, but it's not, it's complexity. And if I think about my 9-year-old self, I think I'd be doing a disservice to her, because I don't think my 9-year-old self would be proud of me if I spoke for the people, because that's not fair. I think that the people, ... metaphorical ... that's for y'all. You guys are now able to go on The Price is Right and say what you need to say, and you need to say it on your shirt. So, I might not care about Bob Barker or The Price is Right 20 years later, but as I approach my 30th birthday, I just have one thing to say to you, Bob Barker. You better get ready. Thank you very much.
Our next storyteller is Sandi Marx. I love her. She's been on Risk, she's been on Moth. Great storyteller all around. She's my great friend, Sandi. Come on.
Now you can think that at my age I would know how to do like PowerPoint shit, like I look like Barbara from HR, but I'm clueless, okay? So this is it, that's what you get. That's me and my sister when we were kids, okay? And we're wearing corsages, which you can't tell, but they look like they were stolen from a funeral home. I don't know. All right. We're talking about a very, very, very favorite subject of mine. Are you ready? We're going to talk about the Beatles. I'm that old. Okay, so my childhood was not exactly like moonbeams and tulips. It was a fucking shit show. So we were really broke and we were really a mess. And my first memory is living in an apartment that was so small that my sister and I shared a room. It wasn't really a room, it was the dinette in the kitchen. Do you know what that is? That's like that little alcove, which would be fine if we were into food when we were little. But the problem was, we weren't, but my mother was. She was she was a portly woman. She said she was big boned. She was huge. And so every night we would try to sleep. We slept in one bed in this tiny little space. We were such a mess. And my mother would sidle in, thinking we didn't see her. And then we were supposed to be sleeping and she would open up the refrigerator and the light would wake us up. And then she'd open the freezer, and so the first thing I would see is this woman, my mother, in her house coat, and she would be like digging in a Van Chalk straw, like Breyers in the gallon, like, and like a ladle, not even a spoon. Okay, so this is, okay. But luckily, by the time we were 8, we moved to a normal apartment a block away in Queens, in Forest Hills, which seems nice, but we were like the poor people on Yellowstone Boulevard in a building that was fine, but we were so poor. We lived in a ground floor apartment, and then the reason I think we could afford it was because the boiler, I think, was inside our apartment, heating the entire building. So it was so fucking hot in there all the time. It's like the Titanic, that coal room where you see those guys. It was like that all the time. Okay, so that was my childhood. Now, my sister and I used to hide in our bedroom because my parents hated each other. They hated each other. They threatened each other to leave each other for so many years. They stayed married till they died. 52 years. They stayed together. They hated each other. Okay, so but when we were really little, we just used to hide. We were like taking cover. And we would play crazy games like, did you guys ever play Hot Lava? Do you know that game? You get on the bed and the shag carpeting is the magma and you jump from one to the other. We could occupy ourselves. We did not want to be around our parents because they were always fighting over the one thing they didn't have, money. And my dad, who had a job working in a crayon factory, and it wasn't Crayola, it was an imitation Crayola. So can you imagine growing up using crayons that were like Hanukkah candles, like waxy but no color, and not knowing that like there was burnt sienna was a thing. Like I didn't know any of that. It was a disaster, but you know we did it. Okay, so we would stay together, and my father was always losing jobs, even at the crayon factory. It was a mess. And my sister and I we had each other. Now one of the problems was mealtime because my mother, it was fucking hot in there. I get it. She's big bone, big woman. She decided to spend all of her time, just like the elephant in the room, in just her brassiere and her underpants. Now, I'm not talking a bra. Do you know the difference between a bra and a brassiere is like 32 eyes and hooks, and she had like cleavage that starts here and went all the way down, and big lady pants, and she was always sweating on her mustache. She was a mess. And my father had on like a dirty t-shirt, and they're yelling at each other. And it was not fun to eat meals with these people because when you're a Jew growing up in Queens back then, especially if you're poor, it's not like we went to charm school. So like you talk and you spit food while you're talking because you can't waste time. You're eating and talking at the same time. And my mother would make this meatloaf with Campbell's vegetarian soup that had alphabet letters in it. I don't know if you've ever... Okay. Now, the problem was because my mother was busy talking and spitting and yelling at my father, like the letters would land on her continental shelf and her sweat. It was bad. So my sister and I used to say, Mom, can we eat in our bedroom? Because the one thing my parents gave us was our own television. Now, I think my father probably found it on the back of somebody's truck. I don't know, because we had no money for TVs, but that was the heart of our home, was our black and white small TV. No TVs in our house had, we certainly didn't have remotes back then. I mean, I'm fucking old. We had a dial, but because we were the Handelman family, we didn't have a dial. We lost it. So you used pliers to change the channel. It wasn't a big deal. We only had 2, 4, 5, 7. That was it. It wasn't like you had cable. So we put tinfoil on the antenna for HD quality. And we would sit there and we'd watch a show. And my sister and I would spend all of our time in our room watching I Dream of Jeannie, which I loved. We used to go like this thinking we could wind up in Cocoa Beach or wherever the fuck they were. We would do anything to just get out of this house. And my parents didn't care because they were so busy fighting in the kitchen. They didn't want us to hear it. So it was fine. Snack tables, we'd watch TV, except one night of the week. Every week. It was like our Shabbat dinner, but we call it Shanat because it was Sunday night. Sunday night, our high holy night, we spent in my parents' bedroom and we would watch the Ed Sullivan Show. Okay, now if you all are too fucking young. Okay, let me tell you. Ed Sullivan was this it was insane that he had his own show. He was not someone you'd think that anyone would want on television. He looked like a Munch painting that was like dripping like the screen. Like he had like a long head, and he was very uncomfortable in his own bones. So like when you'd watch him, he was always like kind of wandering around the stage. But everybody loved him, and it was a true variety show. Way before, like, when you have to compete to be, like, the best of whatever. This was, like, true, just simple variety. And he would have amazing acts, and everybody watched it. I mean, obviously, we didn't have a lot of options. We didn't exactly have Netflix. But everybody loved watching Ed Sullivan. So he would have, like, these people that had sticks, and they would twirl plates. Why does anybody want to do that? I don't know. But we were, like, mesmerized by the plate twirlers, and I think he invented the stupid pet tricks, like dogs, like jumping through hoops, which I think is kind of poignant because David Letterman took over that theater many, many years later with his and I'm thinking he definitely stole that from Ed Sullivan. And then they had this thing, do you guys remember? You don't remember, what am I talking about? Ask your parents. There was this little animal they called Topo Gigio. It was a mouse dressed as a gondolier. Why? I don't know. But we bought it. We thought Topo Gigio was a gondolier. He had like a little tam and a striped shirt. And every time the show was on, he'd say, Eddie, kiss me goodnight. And we'd all, I don't know, how stupid. We were stupid. We were definitely stupid. We were like totally into this shit. Okay, so Sunday night is Ed Sullivan. Now, no matter what went on during the week, and it was all bad, it was bad, there was Sunday night, and my family said, we're going to have a real dinner, we're going to be together, we're going to watch Ed Sullivan. Great. Okay, dinner. It was on my parents' bed. It was a pizza, a greasy pepperoni pizza. The Jews are having their pepperoni pizza on the bed, okay? It's like oily, greasy mess. My sister and I were sitting on the bed with my parents. My mother's in her shitty bra. My father's in his dirty t-shirt, thinking like he looks like Marlon Brando on the wall. And he doesn't look like Marlon Brando. He just looks disgusting. But then Ed Sullivan comes on and all of our worries go away. Thinking about Monday morning school, knowing that I did not study for any of those tests, knowing that I didn't do my homework, knowing that those bitchy chicks in school who hate me, cunts, every one of them, they're going to beat the shit out of me. I didn't think about any of it because it was Ed Sullivan. Now, my mother had one trait that was great. She was totally into music. I mean, I was like the only 8-year-old who had Ray Charles and Chubby Checker on 45s, okay? Because my mother, she was like, this is what you should be listening to. And she said, you're going to see something that's unbelievable. You're going to watch the Beatles. It's their first time on Ed Sullivan. Now, I think history tells that that wasn't their first appearance. They were on a different show. My mother used to talk about this guy, Jack Parr, who was another host who lost his job because he gave somebody the finger. Who knows? I don't know. But Ed Sullivan's the first time I got to witness the Beatles, and we were all so excited. And there we all sat on the bed. We're so excited, and we know they're going to be great. And I'm looking, and I'm 8, I'm a literal thinker, and I see all these girls in the audience. They're swooning, they're pulling their hair out, they're passing out, they're screaming their lungs out. And I mean, if I had known about like toxic, like chemicals or an atomic bomb when I was 8, I would think there was something really bad happening. But no, it was the Beatles. They were flipping the fuck out over the Beatles. And we just sat there transfixed by these 4 dudes who walked on the stage after Ed Sullivan introduced them, and he was like, oh, the Beatles. And they came out, they were wearing black suits, like shiny suits, tight pants, thin ties. Now their hair, my mother said, was so long at the time, it was like a bowl cut. I mean, if you look at it now, they just look like one of the Three Stooges. They didn't really look like anything, but back then it was like an unbelievable thing to see that. And they were watching them and they're singing like I Want to Hold Your Hand and all these other amazing original first generation Beatles songs. And at that, I'm watching my parents and my sister, and we're all loving it. We're singing along to the chorus. We're totally into it. It's like this fucking family who's so fucked up, who has really very little prospects. In this one moment, watching the Beatles, it's like the only other time I can actually remember this kind of experience happening was when we were all watching the moon landing, and then the horrible experience of seeing John Kennedy's after his funeral, like watching those are the memories I have with my parents. But this one time, in this one moment, this fucked up family is watching this together, and all I can think about is the Beatles was going to save us. Thank you.
It is a popular legend, and it is wrong, that Ed Sullivan was the first to bring the Beatles to this country. It is a part of the legend that he was on the Sullivan Show first. The first time the Beatles were ever seen was on the Sullivan Show. The press says that. Your game of trivia says that. It's not true. I had the Beatles on by film. I had seen them in London and had them filmed.
So to clear it up, yeah, most people think it was Ed Sullivan, but it truly was Jack Parr, January 3rd. And he was always he was always butthurt about it that Ed Sullivan got the credit for it. Yeah. But that was Jack Parr. Yeah, now we all learned. January 3rd. It's a huge thing. Yeah.
Alright, this is the segment that you've all been waiting for. It is Ross and Angel's personal events. So we went through this morning at 5 a.m. We went through our Time Hop app and our Facebook memories. And so this is what you're going to see.
Yeah.
Russ will click
You
it
want
for
to
you.
click for me?
All right.
I tweeted that. I love Dean Strang. He was a lawyer in Making a Murderer. That's that. This was a note to myself to express yourself more. I think I've done it. I think it worked. This was my ex-girlfriend and I filming a segment 6 years ago for a Conan O'Brien episode that they filmed an episode and then they had people submit like 20, 30-second clips and then they picked them and they put them in order to make the whole episode. And we actually did get picked. So Jamie did this whole thing as Conan. She did the whole monologue in Spanish. And then we also did an interview with our cat, and the cat got on too. He plays Anne Hathaway as Catwoman, so he's on it too. Yeah, that's my Conan memories. Oh, this is me. This was an email from last year. Eating soft pretzels in bed, mustard onto sheets. Oh no, walk with dry cleaning. I don't know what it is. That's it. That's just all it is. This was a comment on one of my first viral videos on YouTube, where I take all of Kanye West's ad-libs and put them in order. Somebody commented you should make one of these for Nicki Minaj, and I did that last year, and that's up as well. So yes,
you should
I
watch
listened.
the video.
Yeah. This was an email to somebody, I think it was actually to you, Kishella. We were planning to hang out, and I had an interview for the perfume factory. I said, hold on, I might get this job. And then I emailed you back, and I said, okay, got the job, here are my hours. And then I think we hung out like later that day.
So that transitions into my personal stuff. My emails. This was from 2008, 11 years ago. This is when I started applying for jobs. And I had this whole paragraph. I'm like, I'm a recent graduate at Ithaca College with a major in photography and minor in writing and communications management on the side. I say 3 months ago I had some elaborate plan that my thesis film would make it big through the underground whispers, that my self-indulgent blog would tell the world how different yet relatable I am, and that my comedic personality would land me 5 stars with 1 million views on YouTube. I'm not sure what happened, but none of these seem to come true yet. And then I go on, and then I was like, that's why I want to be your admin.
Did you get the job?
No, so I applied for another reason. I wrote the copy-paste receptionist position. Gallery interpreter, same opening.
They're all on January 3rd.
Yeah, all of January 3rd. These were my animation ideas that I had at 1 a.m. Let's pick, what's a good one that I could read? I like the one where I say, blank or evil. I just like the idea of something being evil and then explaining why. And then I have, at least 13 people die every year from vending machines falling on them, and here's how it happens. So these are all my ideas of little animation films. Alright, so here's my timeout. 1 year ago I performed Calvin, who you're gonna see later, 2 years ago, someone sent me this pug doing a split. I have a pug. My husband and I have a pug. I took a bunch of selfies 2 years ago, and I picked that one to post on Instagram. 4 years ago, took a bunch of That's My Pug mush, and that was the one I picked for Instagram. 5 years ago, I was really proud. This is a Chinese dish. It's jok, and it's with ginkgo nuts and bean curd, which is like, children do not like this. But as I was growing up, I was like, I like the taste of ginkgo nuts, and I made it, and I was really proud, and I took a picture of it and sent it to my parents.
It's a great photo. Really good.
I have a lot more than Ross.
I don't post a lot.
This was my Facebook 2014. A bird died in front of our house, and I had to tell Facebook about it.
And you named it McConaughey. I just saw that.
This is a great tweet. I painted my nails red so I won't bite them. I still bite my nails. But now every time I pick my boogers, I think I'm bleeding. Because it's like, oh, red. Things I regret already in 2013 was the hashtag. So I remember when I got my iPod Touch. Not a phone, iPod Touch. My husband, who's here, gave it. That was my Christmas present. And that was the first picture, and then that was the second picture. My first selfie, I guess.
Yeah.
And then there was an aging group. I remember those aging groups. I was obsessed with it. So I took a picture of myself as a 5-year-old aging. I thought it was really funny. No, it's 7 years ago. I put Trivial Pursuit and Escape Rose Cliff Island. That's crazy. I would never buy apps. I don't know why I bought it. It was 2:43 a.m.
Yeah,
Maybe that's why. Greenpoint does not have googly eyes. I looked all over. That was 8 years ago. 9 years ago, I wrote Yikes Giants, What Happened? I don't watch sports. I don't know why I wrote this. Maybe I was trying to impress a boy. I don't know. And then the last email, which I thought was sweet, 2009, 10 years ago, I asked my friend to do a show called Whips Awkward Moments, a showcase. And I was like, oh, I hope he does it with me. And now I'm doing a show with my friend. But
that's not me. That's not me.
No, that's not me. Another friend. Every 10 years, I'm going to ask a friend to do
I'll be replaced soon.
a show. And that was our personal event. All right, so our next presenter, who you saw the pictures a year ago, so funny, he also has a bunch of personal things to talk about. January 3rd is Calvin Cato. Come on up.
Oh my goodness, thank you. A huge round of applause to Angel and Ross for putting this together. Oh my goodness. Oh damn. Uh-oh, this is maybe a problem. So, this is called On This Day, An Exercise in Procrastination by Calvin Cato. Because this is about my storied relationship with January 3rd, because it is the longest relationship I've ever had. Don't ask how long. I still have a casting director that may be present here, so I can't say how old I am. Also, there should have been a background here, but that failed, so this is going to be an issue. I should have watched Helvetica closer. I got asked to do the show by Angel Yao, a lovely, talented goddess, who unfortunately is now pixelated here. Because I don't know how to use the Zoom app properly in PowerPoint. Meanwhile, my resume says I'm an expert at it. It's a special skill. That's why Leslie Silver & Associates doesn't call me back. Anyway, so Angel Yao was like, hey, you should do the show. It's going to be on January 3rd, and all the exciting things that have happened to you on January 3rd. And I was like, yeah, I can do January 3rd. And then I was playing around with this app, so now we're going to see if this actually works. I don't think it's going to. Because I was like, oh, I can put GIFs in these apps? I'm going to do January 3rd. I'm going to do the shit out of this show. Because, like Olivia Pope, it's handled. Thank God it worked. I was going to Olivia Pope the shit out of this show. I was like, I'm going to do this. It's going to be great. I got this. I have ideas. And it's going to be awesome. And I'm going to travel. I'm going to wear a white coat. Didn't do that tonight because it was in the laundromat. But, so I was going to do it. And the thing is that, because I was like, oh, I've done tons of things January 3rd. And recently, I've actually been on a nostalgia kick because I just moved from my place where I lived alone for 9 years. Trust me. I'm living with a wonderful roommate. It's my mom. It's like a movie, and that movie's called Psycho. That's great. So anyway, but I lived alone for 9 years. It's a long story. Basically, my whole apartment situation imploded. But I had to move out all of my stuff. And so I was on a nostalgia kick because I forgot I had all the stuff I owned over the years. One of the things that I still owned, apparently, was a sex story I wrote when I was 14 years old. 14 years old. Get ready. I'm so sorry I expected this to be this kind of show. But it's going to be this kind of show for at least 2 minutes. So, I wrote the sex story when I was 14 because I kept it because I have held many jobs in my life. But one of the jobs I almost had was I was going to be an editor of romance novels. And so they're like, have you ever written erotica before? And I was like, I've written erotica, counting this sex story I wrote when I was 14 years old. This is the original. I'm only showing a page because I don't believe in cheating. I'm going to actually tell January 3rd stuff. But you'll notice in the corner here where someone wrote painfully virginal, darling. Painfully virginal. I was 14. I didn't know I was gay yet, so I tried to write a straight story, which is awful. I just want to call out some things. First of all, let's notice the fact that also another friend wrote, there's a lot of jungle fever in here. It's because the story literally starts, you went to the lovely hotel room, said a white woman. That's how it starts. Said a white woman. And she's fucking Filipino. No, black. No, black. Had to change it midstream. I too am an editor. And then the other key thing you may notice is as she took a breath, Catherine slowly but seductively takes off her shirt, revealing 2 separate breasts. Because I'm not gay, there's 2 breasts in there. I know that. And Matthew responds with, yum. Yum. You know how sexy that is. And he gets to work sucking her breasts sensuously, like ripe apples. Because you know them Granny Smith titties? That's what I thought titties were like, ripe apples. There's also a lot of penis talk. There's 4 pages of this, and it's all penis. I never say the word vagina once. Okay? No. So, I was on this nostalgia kick, and I was like, okay, January 3rd. I've done a lot of things with January 3rd. Let me go through Facebook, because Facebook will help me. And Facebook showed me this. This is back in college. I wore this unironically. So in college, like, I had a Sasha Fierce moment where, like, Beyonce was like, I'm gonna be Sasha Fierce. So I used to shop exclusively at Goodwill or Target. So this is a Goodwill fake fur coat and a Target shirt. And I used to go out and I used to call myself Champagne when I went out. So this was Champagne on the town. It's a very classic thing. And I would also go into parties and be like, it's Calvin! And for some reason, people always gave me free booze. I don't know why. I went to Wesleyan, look it up. So anyway, I was like, oh, I'm killing it. So this is gonna be really easy. I'm gonna have a lot of memories of January 3rd. This was a highlight. This is a more of a lower light, because I was like, oh, my New Year's resolution, less shit, more substance, 0 tolerance for other people's BS that only 7 people liked. So that didn't work out. And then I went back from Facebook. I realized I was like, oh, this just gets sadder and sadder, because like there's just no likes. Like I posted this. I don't know what this means. Putting on the Ritz. I mean, I know there's a song, Putting on the Ritz. I don't think I was knowledgeable enough to understand why would that be funny. Didn't know at all. So instead, I was like, you know what I'm going to do for January 3rd? I'm going to look through my journals, because I have a lot of journals. This is already just 6 of roughly 13 journals that I own. 13 journals, all different colors. My rule for journals was I always had to write, like, if I wrote an entry in one color, I had to write a different entry in a different color. That was the thing, because I was like, it's going to be standout-ish. And then I realized, like, a lot of the January 3rd entries were just me obsessing over some boy and not understanding why I was gay. So I was like, I don't want to do that tonight. Someone might be available. So I was like, let me just get past this. This is getting frustrating. And then I was like, and then Angel sent an email saying, this is due, just sending a reminder. And I was like, oh no, the panic's setting in. What's happening? Oh God. And then I wrote, oh, That's So Raven, I love that show. It's really good. So I was panicking. And then when I panic, I always am like, I'm gonna just write this in an hour. I'm gonna procrastinate. And so this was literally at January 3rd at 1 a.m. I procrastinate by I browse Wikipedia obsessively. This is an actual thing I read on Wikipedia. Thank you. Thank you, teacher. I literally read through everything. This is all arcsine, arcsecant, or cotangent. I can tell you a lot now about all of that and where the limits are and asymptotes. I love asymptotes. You can't jump them though, but I was reading all of this. And I was like, okay, this isn't gonna come together. So let me think about other things that happened on January 3rd. And then I was like, oh, I know, Bitcoin started on January 3rd. I'm gonna make this whole impression about Bitcoin. But then I was like, ugh, I don't wanna be that guy. You know what I mean? I don't wanna be a white guy in my 30s, like still at Bushwick. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm fucking sick of it. Who gives a shit about Bushwick and Bitcoin? Fuck that noise. I'm sorry, it's all going down the toilet anyway, who gives a shit? So, instead I was like, okay, let me look up other things on January 3rd. And I was like, oh, Mussolini, he amassed power on January 3rd. It's bad optics for someone who looks like this talking about Mussolini. So I was like, nah, it's not. Let's Nazi. I'll delete that. So this is how I felt at 3 in the morning. I was like, God damn it, I thought I had this, this is gonna be great. But then I remembered that like Beyonce, I'm a survivor. I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna stop. Yes, there we go. You're Michelle now. Okay, so I was like, I'm gonna fucking do this. It's gonna be great. And one of the things I actually told myself actually before the new year started was I was like, try to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Every single time you think you're gonna fail, you don't know, because you might succeed. And so I told myself I'm gonna forgive myself, and this is my relationship with January 3rd, which is, in conclusion, I really did put an effort. I swear to God. I tried, I did this. Also start projects as soon as I get them, and not a day or two before. Also, 2 more things on January 3rd, as opposed to just dressing fur coats and Target shit. That would be nice. And also, the show's a really wonderful concept. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for having me. This is great. I'm a survivor. Thank you.
Pretend it's 1996, January 3rd, 1996, and I'm a different person. Ready? Hi everyone, I'm from Motorola, and I have exciting news. Today is the first day that we have a new product out. First of all, you guys like clams, right? How many people like clams? I love clams. Well, you know, have that in the back of your head, because we're going to talk about new cell phones. These are our old versions. Remember, this was our, really proud of that one. And then we have that one, which flips a little. But guess what, guys? We have a new product. It's going to blow your mind. Oh my God. It's a clamshell flip phone. Fits in your pocket. You could walk anywhere with it discreetly. Here are some pro things that you're gonna love. I'm sure you're gonna buy. We call it the StarTech 3000. Look how beautiful it is. No accidents. You're not gonna press buttons by accident. It's gonna flip, and then you put it in your pocket. So you can't press anything by accident. 10 color character display, so you can read everything on that display. Large soft keys. It's gonna feel real good on your fingers. 60 minutes of talk time. You can talk on the phone an hour straight. Can you believe it? And 14 hours of standby time. You just, if you don't want to talk on the phone, 14 hours. And looks really cool. Looks a lot cooler, right? All right. It's the size of a beeper. It's the size of a beeper. It fits anywhere. One of the other cool things is the ringtones. First of all, not only, this is the first phone that vibrates. You don't even need to listen. You just feel it and you can answer the phone. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. But I am excited for these ringtones. Are you guys? There's so many choices.
Pressing the smart button will sound the ringer tone currently in use. Pressing
another
the
option.
key lets you scroll through the different ringer styles.
Higher if you like the higher tones. So many options. You can personalize the ringtone, right? And guess what? Everyone gets a box today. You all get cell phones. It's so small, so light. It's always with you. So I hope you guys buy it. We already sold 60 million, and I think there's going to be more. Thank you.
That was good.
You can hear that. We traveled back in time.
Wow, that was crazy.
All right. So we have our last presenter, and this one's a special. Do you guys know the March of Dimes organization? I've done when I was little. I definitely did that. I don't know if you.
I was a UNICEF guy.
Okay. So we have a special presentation of March of Dimes. It was founded on this day, January 3rd. So give it up for Eva.
Hi everyone, my name's Eva. I'm here from March of Dimes. I'm not actually a comedian, and this isn't really funny. It's just you're gonna learn about history. So from polio to prematurity, this really sums it up for you. But we'll start there, and then we'll end there. So March of Dimes, it's our 81st year right now in 2019. Really exciting stuff. So we started with polio, moved into prematurity research. We basically made prematurity screening or like newborn baby screening a thing that's required for everyone in a hospital, and folic acid, really important. We will talk about that. So starting in 1949, President Roosevelt founded the March of Dimes. He actually had polio himself, which a lot of people don't actually know because he was either behind a desk or walking with someone like holding him up, basically. And it was really interesting. He did a lot of upper body workouts to hold himself up and had some kind of crazy like contraption to keep his legs and his body straight. So he championed this, and it was a crazy thing. People were in the iron lung, and kids everywhere were getting it. So in 1954, Dr. Salk, he came up with the vaccine, and it was actually one of the largest clinical trials ever done. 1.8 million school children got the vaccine on a trial. And it turned out it worked. They were called the polio pioneers, really exciting. So the next year it was licensed and they started using it and everyone got it, and it eradicated polio in the United States. Really exciting stuff. So that actually made March of Dimes one of the only nonprofits, maybe the only nonprofit in the country to actually accomplish its mission. So that's a pretty big deal. So at that point they were like, okay, great, what do we do now? So they really pivoted and started focusing on birth defects. So there was not very much known about why birth defects are happening, so they started funding research, basically looking into the human genome, genes, why is this happening to babies, things like that. So 1968, these are some big milestones. There's hundreds of things that we have funded in terms of prematurity and baby infant mortality, things like that. These are just like the main highlights that I felt like you should know. So in 1968, they figure out that genetic disorders can be inherited, things like that. 1970s, this is a big year for the fundraising world. March of Dimes started the first walkathon in the country. It's the oldest walkathon. It used to be called Walk America. Now it's March for Babies. It happens in New York City every year and across the country as well. So that's also really exciting. Most people have heard of it. It's one of our biggest fundraisers overall. And then in 1988, the folic acid campaign was launched. And it basically was that women should be taking this vitamin all during pregnancy to prevent brain and spine complications in a fetus before babies are born. So right now, this is now, we're in modern day, March of Dimes is focusing on maternal health care and prematurity. So right now, the United States is facing a huge crisis where women are dying every year from birth, basically 700 women a year, which puts the United States 139th out of 180 developed countries in terms of maternal mortality rate, which is actually appalling and terrible, and it's just crazy. So that is what we're focused on right now. Preventing that, making sure we're advocating for better health care for women, and doing research to basically figure out why women are dying. So 1 in 10 babies is born premature. So the likelihood you know someone who's had a premature baby, or maybe you were premature yourself, is pretty high. And additionally, there's a lot of race disparity among women in terms of who is actually at higher risk, and there's a lot of health deserts in the world, in the country, where there's places where there's just not access to health care for women. Also, this is like not my main job. I like work at a desk, and I'm in fundraising. I just call people and like do stuff. So this is like,
You're great.
yeah, this is a lot. Okay, yeah. So that is like what our focus is now. So we fundraise, and we have 5 prematurity research centers, 4 in the United States and 1 in England, and those are working to figure out what actually causes prematurity. People don't know why. There's things that can put you at higher risk, but the real reason is unknown still. So March of Dimes basically helps hundreds and thousands, millions of families every year. It affects everyone in your family if someone's born premature, or if your wife is in the hospital, or your sister, or someone you know is in the hospital. So it's really important, and like I said, this really is something that affects everyone, and the research is so important, because although we may all think it doesn't affect us now, the thing is like 10, 15 years down the road, these are discoveries that are coming out that will affect us and improve everyone's health care. So it's really exciting to see what's happening, and March of Dimes has actually had a lot of big wins recently, including the Preemie Act, which just got passed by Congress, or approved by Congress to be signed by the president soon, which basically advocates for better health care for women, and in hospitals and in the workplace. So really exciting things that are happening. Thank you so much, and I hope it was a good
Give it up for March of Dimes, guys.
So part of the ticket sales tonight will be donating to March of Dimes.
Yes.
So your tickets are good news.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. All right, good. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for coming out. We threw a lot at the wall. We want to try this out. We want to teach you something, make you laugh, make you learn.
Cheers.
Yeah, donate to March of Dimes.
I have one more email that I didn't share, but I want to share with you because it's pretty interesting. So in 2012, I joined Time Hop on January 3rd. And that was the original email. Like, they used to just like send emails instead of the app, and it was called Past Post. And Jonathan Wegner was the founder of Time Hop. And we might have him or one of the founders to be on the show next time to talk about the Time
How they
Hop.
got hacked
Yeah.
and all of our information.
And so, last photo, January 3rd.
That's tonight.
That's tonight.
So you guys are part of our
Yeah.
history, caveat history. Thank you again.
Thank you for coming.
Donate to March of Dimes.
Yeah, come back.
All right, thanks guys.
Bye.
Bye.